I think there's room for the genuine, authentic pieces of content, and I think you should have that. But then I also think that you should have some more theatrical, fun, things where you can act. And that's what I love about social media these days, is because, a lot of the techniques, we call our technique, your business is a movie, really. And so we're taking that storytelling process and going, okay, how can we infuse this into your content for your business, and for you as a personal brand?
How do you get 10,000 people to take a step to the left? What's behind the relentless mindset of a world champion? Why do teams of exceptional talent fail? How do you manage the pressure to perform? These are just some of the curious questions we will attempt to answer as we bring you world leaders, curious minds, exceptional talent, successful CEOs, and incredible human beings who know how to inspire great leaders and are inspiring great leaders themselves. I am Craig Johns, high performance leadership expert, international speaker, and CEO of Speakers Institute Corporate and World Sport Coach. This is the Inspiring Great Leaders podcast, where the ordinary don't belong. Welcome to the Inspiring Great Leaders podcast. Our guest today is a true master of his craft, a cinematic chameleon with a magnetic screen presence, an award-winning singer, an accomplished dancer, and the CEO and executive producer of Leduc Entertainment. He has notable appearances in movies like Green Lantern in 2011, which stars Ryan Reynolds, Lords of the Streets in 2008, and last year in Girl with a Gun. He was also cast in a lot of our favorite TV shows such as Prison Break, The Purge, and Valor. He is an entrepreneur with a production company known for its inventive and original content, and a committed ambassador for his New Orleans roots. Aside from being on screen, he has also worked behind the scenes as the writer and director of shows like Bourbon Whiz and Bad Grandmas. Today we have the pleasure of delving into the mind of this multifaceted artist as we explore his creative process, inspirations, and vision for the future. Lights, camera, action. Armando Leduc. Armando, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, brother.
Real pleasure. Now, you're based in America, but you've got a little bit of a diverse background. So where did you grow up, and what was the big dream as you chased your friends around the playground?
So I grew up in Germany mainly. My dad was in the military. And man, when you get swept up every 3 years, you learn heartbreak very early on in life. So I think it helped mold me to who I am today. I wouldn't say I'm, I have a lot of baggage in that regard, but it also helps me, make friends quick. And it helped me assimilate very quickly and learn how to go into any room and just be comfortable, be comfortable with being uncomfortable. So.
Yeah, gives you a real diverse perspective on the world, which I'm sure helps a lot when you're, looking at whether it be movies or social media, etc. You can look at it from different perspectives, and I think that's a beautiful, upbringing to have and insight in the world.
Yeah, it's funny as the world gets smaller. With social media and digital and podcasting and stuff. I mean, I'm talking to you in Australia and I'm here in New Orleans. How amazing is that? And so you learn that, people are people, and people are kind of predictable. And that helps, especially in marketing, because you can tell what people are going to do and the type of people out there. And, if you're consistent enough, you can create predictability and scalability in your company as a result of good marketing.
And so when you think about your influences or role models when you're kind of in your teenage years, moving around the world a little bit, was there someone who kind of stood out as someone who had quite an impact on who you are today?
You know, growing up within a military family, the core family sort of stays together. My dad, my mother, and my sister and myself, right? So it was the four of us. That these are the other three people that have experienced life sort of the same way that I have. So when we moved to the United States when I was 15, my dad got stationed at Fort Gordon in Augusta, Georgia. And I graduated from high school there. And in 2005, I left. I came to New Orleans to pursue my acting career. And, you know, my family had stayed in Augusta. And when I moved to New Orleans, they were, you know, they were a military family. And I was like, guys, what are you guys doing in Augusta? Like, there's nothing there, you know, got no roots there. My dad's a musician. And so they followed me to New Orleans, you know? And so we've been in New Orleans since 2005, and, you know, met my wife here. I have a kid here, you know, her family has become my family. You know, my family's become her family. So, you know, it's definitely interesting. So to answer that question, I guess, you know, my dad, since he was somebody that had, you know, I had always was following anyway. And he was super tenacious, and, you know, his story from where he started in the military to where he ended up was a really fascinating one, because he had come from Puerto Rico and he didn't know how to speak English. And so he learned how to speak English, and you know, they sort of put him in the infantry, and he didn't want to do that, and had the opportunity to play trumpet in the Army band, and they didn't let him do it, you know, and he tried for years, and he finally got the opportunity. And then he switched over into being a musician in the Army band for 22 years. And so I always heard that story of just, you know, not letting, you know, things sort of get in your way. And just because something's true today doesn't mean it's going to be true tomorrow. And so that was something that I think I always carried with me as I grew up, was that you can't just let things, you can always find a way if you're consistent and you stick with it, you know, and you have that tenacity. I think that you can get what you want.
Apart from your very good looks, what kind of drew you into being involved in musicals, the performing arts, and then wanting to become an actor?
I did not want to become an actor. It was thrust upon me. I was trying to figure it out in high school. I was involved in sports and I just didn't like it. And I was involved in this and I didn't like it. You know, my friend Keith persuaded me to audition for the school musical, which was Grease at the time. And it was my senior year in high school. And I got the lead, and that just changed my entire world. I was like, oh my God, I love this, you know? And so I just kept doing musical theater for years, you know, doing community theater. And I was able to get an agent, and they were in Atlanta. I've been with that agent, since 2000, 23 years. Wow, that's crazy. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, but got them in 2000, and been with them since. And they've been sending me on auditions, you know, across the country. And so I was blessed to be able to work on some really amazing, you know, blockbuster projects.
So tell me about that a little bit. You know, you go from a High School Musical, which is kind of generally done on a smell of an oily rag, and then next minute you're in some big, you know, Hollywood blockbusters, and you're talking about Green Lantern, and, you know, even programs like Prison Break, etc. What was it like being involved in that world?
You know, I was fortunate to get to perform with a group called the Augusta Players in Augusta, Georgia. And this wasn't a rinky-dink community theater. You know, this was, they performed, you know, at the Imperial Palace, or the Imperial Stage. can't remember right now, but it was an 800 person theater. So, and their productions were high quality, Broadway style productions. So the training that I got as an actor working with the Augusta Players was really great. Learned a lot of discipline and being mindful of the craft and really, studying and learning. So when I got the opportunity to work on films, I just brought the work ethic from being in theater to film. And, it was thriving because film is so much different than theater, right? Because in theater, you get 3 months to really flesh out a character. Plus you're in rehearsals, you're rehearsing with everybody. There's camaraderie, in a film, you can't ask, Dustin Hoffman to run lines with you, like you show up on the day and, you have your lines memorized, and it's more of a, on the spot, experience. And I'll tell you, when I started doing improv, I trained, in improv, and that really changed the game for me as far as film was concerned, because it kept me more present. Like theater can get a little campy because you're trying to perform for 800 people, and when you have a film camera in your face, it's really about the subtlety. It's really about the eyes and not moving, and I had to really train myself to settle down, and I didn't need to talk from here. Everything's right here. And those microphones, they're just right here so they can hear you and I can express to you what I'm talking about. And, so that's more film acting than theater acting.
Okay. Fascinating. All right. So, my dance partner, when I was 7 years old, moved as far away as possible from New Zealand and went to dance in the Royal London Ballet. I had 2 left feet, but managed to find the right foot and spent my time in sport. So I know what it's like the discipline required around being a high level elite athlete in that sense. But I'm really curious, can you take me through what a typical day or even a week would look like in theater, and then what it looks like as an actor? They're 2 very different modes of, people kind of put them under that performing arts kind of space, but they're 2 very different, let's say, sports in a way, or different, different ways of doing things. So can you give me a bit of insight? It'd be great.
When you're doing theater, that 3 months that you have to like really flesh out a character, you've got 3 or 4 hours of rehearsal every night for 5 days a week, going in and really like learning lines and being absorbed into that world. And you get to perform on the stage, and, it feels more make-believe on stage, right? Because there's an audience there, and there's the facade, and you're in costume and all of that. But when you're on set, right? Like when I did Bad Lieutenant with Nicolas Cage, and when you're on set, like you are in the spot, right? Like if you're in the hotel room, you're in the hotel room. If you're in a house, you're in a house, and it's enclosed, and it has that feel. So when you're there, everything's more real, right? And so when you're doing film, in acting class, they call it available stimulus is one of the acting techniques, and having available stimulus there for you is a lot easier for you to get into character, right? Than having to sort of make up all of the things that you need to do sort of in theater, in theater, you're like, oh, well, imagine that this is happening and there's a thing there. And, there's a lot of imagination going on, but, in film, you can actually experience it. However, when you're doing sci-fi and fantasy, then you're going to have to bring your theater muscles in. Cause a lot of times you're going to act against like a green ball. Right. And it's like, all right, imagine this is a monster. Right. And they're tracking the ball, and you're having to like react to this thing that isn't really there. So, you better have that imagination muscle, going. So,
Yeah.
so you're bringing those techniques from both angles. I think being an actor, is really about experiencing life, and the more life that you experience, the more you can bring to a character. It's funny, in my 20s, all I was doing was studying, and then I took sort of a sabbatical from acting, and I'm back into an improv class. Like, I'm taking an improv level 1 improv class, right? And I'm 43, and I'm in this class with, like, with cats that are 20, and it's such a different experience now, because I'm not in there to prove anything. I'm not in there for ego. I'm not in there because I'm trying to pursue my career, and I'm not in there because I'm trying to learn. Like, I am there to learn, but I'm more there for the experience of doing improv, right? And I always think about this art exhibit I went to at the New Orleans Museum of Art. It was called Lifelike. And the theory or the thought process behind these artists were, they would create art for art's sake, right? But not to sell it, not for any financial gains. They just the paint, recreating and painstakingly recreating everyday objects was the purpose of this art form, right? So, for instance, this guy, he recreated his childhood home, right, from the 70s, with everything that he grew up with, right? So he had to go across the country to find that particular refrigerator, that particular wallpaper, that particular dining room table with those chairs and the carpet. And he painstakingly recreated his childhood home. That took him like years to do. He didn't get paid. He didn't it was mind blowing, right? This guy had created a trash bag, a full trash bag that was made of marble. But when you looked at it, it looked like a plastic trash bag. For what? Just for art, right? And so it's funny now, like I said, I'm in my 40s, and how I approach the art form now is such a different perspective, which is a great perspective. I don't have to try so hard. I'm not. In your 20s, you're so trying, you so want it so much, right? You want the end result so bad. And now that I'm in my 40s, right, and I'm on the other side of things, it's like, wow, I just need to enjoy myself as much as possible right now. I don't need to arrive. I've arrived, right? So now I'm just like, I just want to have a good time. I want to do things that fulfill me and create the journey that is going to make me feel fulfilled, instead of chasing that end result that I think we all get so caught up with, in trying to find that ending, and you don't need to. This is what it's about, right? The day, what you're doing, that is what we're doing. That's what it's what it's all about. And I wish I had known that in my 20s a little bit more.
It's interesting. We're the same age, and I'm kind of at a phase right now. I'm like, I want that kind of, what is that big thing I'm focused on? What is that clarity on that again? Because I love that about sport. I thrived in it. I felt fulfilled. So I had a different feeling, I suppose, in my 20s, where I had a lot of clarity. I lent into that, and I kind of get lost a little bit in just kind of trying to enjoy just being in the moment and that type of thing. So I have a different feeling, which is quite interesting to kind of reflect on. Coming back to both the theater and acting, right? So you've got to step into character, and obviously from a producer point of view, they're wanting a certain character being developed, but you've also got to be your authentic self. So how do you balance that, stepping into a character, but also being 100% genuine and authentic in yourself?
It starts with who you are first. You have to know who you are. to become somebody else. And I think that that's a lot of times when you're trying to get into character, it really is putting the shoes on of the character, right? So you need to know where you are first. How are you feeling? What is your perspective today? So that we can bridge that gap as to who we need to become, right? And so I always start with that first, like just being, and where am I, and what's my headspace, and my emotions, and what happened today, and where am I, right? Okay, great. And then and then the character that I need to portray, what's his wants, what's his desires, what are the similarities of me and this character? What are things that are, not, and how can I bridge those gaps? And you got, there's a lot of the techniques goes into, where are you? Who are you? What's my moment before? Could it be an accent that like really snaps into, sort of that space that works for me? A lot of times, like I'll play with character accents and just character beings, and maybe I'll try him if he's a little drunk, or if he's angry or super happy, and just kind of through that rehearsal process figure out where that character lies. And it's kind of like Michelangelo when he talks about the statue. He's not chiseling the statue. It's finding itself, right? Like he's just freeing the statue from the marble, right? And so I think acting is sort of the same thing. It'll find you if you're in the right headspace of playing, and you'll kind of just fall into this character, and it's like, oh yeah, that's him. That's why I love theater, because you have a lot more time to do that with an ensemble. In film, you sort of have to do that work by yourself before, and then you get to set, and then, you have that time you'll have maybe 2 or 3 rehearsals, and then they'll set up, they'll call in the first team. You're the first team. You'll do your scene in a rehearsal so that the cinematographer and everybody else knows how they light it. Right. And you get to talk to the director, and you figure out what it is that you guys are going to do. Then you leave, and the second team comes in, the stand-ins and everybody, they light the scene for you. Then you come in, and they shoot what we call the master shot, right? So it's usually like the wide shot, and they'll let us kind of go. Television is a little bit faster. They're not going to give you that many takes because they've got to move, right? But in film, depending on the director, it could be 15, 20 takes. I'll tell you, Martin Campbell, who's from New Zealand, who I worked with on Green Lantern, he took a long time. He directed Casino Royale, and it was like, 14, 15 takes, per shot. So, so you come in, you do the master, and then they'll come in and do some like mid shots, two people shots, and then they'll go over like over the shoulder, give me some close-ups, depending on the shot list. And so as the cameras come in closer and closer, you'll have had those takes to like really sort of explore different takes, and trying to surprise the partner with something new so that it's authentic, right? Yeah. So if you really want to get something out of them, change the approach, through the words.
And so you've, kind of, you moved on in your career and now have a social media marketing agency, which you're obviously doing very, very well with. When we think about, talking about being genuine and authentic in regards to being on stage and on film, etc., how, it's when you move into social media, when you're doing video, etc., the importance of people staying genuine and authentic versus trying to put on what we would say a stage person or a camera person. How can people ensure they stay genuine and authentic when they are, recording videos for social media?
I think you can do both. I think there's room for the genuine, authentic pieces of content, and I think you should have that. But then I also think that you should have some more theatrical fun, things where, where you can act. And that's what I love about social media these days, is because, a lot of the techniques we call our technique, your business is a movie, really. And so we're taking that storytelling process and going, okay, how can we infuse this into your content for your business, and for you as a personal brand. So yeah, I think you can do your Q&As, in podcast form and straight into the camera, where you're like, building value and establishing authority, so that people take you serious in your profession. But then, but why not add some more fun? Like we'll create trailers for businesses. We did one for an oil and gas company where you've seen the movie Armageddon.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're like, oh, these roughnecks that work and live on these oil rigs, they probably all need, over here in New Orleans, we eat crawfish. Do you guys have crawfish in New Zealand?
Yeah,
they look like mini lobsters.
Yeah.
So they eat a lot. Okay, cool. Yeah,
call them crawlies.
Do y'all eat them?
Yeah, we would. Yeah, yep.
Okay, cool. So over here, it's like huge. They boil crawfish, and it's a whole thing. So we did this video where these guys are out in the Gulf and they're on the oil rig and they need crawfish, or they're not going to make it. And so we just kind of created this fun trailer where it's like sort of Armageddon parody. So I feel like stuff like that is authentic in terms of what they do, but it's not necessarily them, right? Like they're acting, so I feel like it's also fulfilling for us because it's something fun, it's something theatrical, and people on social media want to see some funny stuff. They want to be entertained, they want to learn, they want to think, so they want to feel. I've been watching a lot of videos about a dad who's giving advice about growing, child rearing and all of that, and it's got a lot of like these heartwarming moments, and I'm like, man, that's great that he's able to convey that in 30 seconds with music, voiceover, and just images, video. And I was like, that's storytelling, that's filmmaking, in a micro level, so I love it. I think people can do it all. It's social media, so there are no rules, in my opinion.
There are no rules. I think one of the big things a lot of people struggle with in regards to social media when it comes to business, right? So yes, you can just have social media presence where you make sure everyone sees what's happening in your life. But then there's those that are out there from a business sense in trying to figure out how they do what they might feel as an icky sales in a way. And so what are some strategies you're seeing that are working really well that allow you to sell your business without people doing the traditional, and here are your 3 free steak knives and type selling?
Yeah. I think it's really about education-based marketing at this point. If you are educating your prospects, and educating your clients, you can always, our business has grown tremendously from social media, and I wish I could take all the credit, but I had a really good mentor who runs a $45 million law firm in Georgia, and he started a company called 8 Figure Firm, where he's teaching other attorneys how to scale their businesses to 8 figures. And I've told this story several times. But I always tell it because it's an amazing story. He took a company, he took this nonprofit attorney from $700,000 a year in revenue to $2.4 million in 6 months. Right. And I was like, mind blown. Right. I was like, how's this happening? And he's like, Armando, you have a 7-figure business. Right. And at the time I was only making $70K a year in revenue. And I was like, what are you talking about, Lewis? He's like, look, man, I can give you this information for free, but you won't implement it. You won't value it. And I was like, okay, so what are you talking about? And he's like, $2,500 for mentorship. We'll meet 4 times a month. We'll meet weekly and we'll discuss your business, and I'll teach you how to grow it. And I was like, Whew, boy, $2,500 a month. You got to be kidding me. First month we worked together, $30,000, and he just was changing my mindset, right? He was changing what it is that I was focused on, what my relationship was with money, and as a result, I mean, the first year after working with him, we hit $500,000 in revenue, and then just kept scaling from there. And I just saw, my clients kept growing and growing and growing. I mean, he started 8-figure firm in September of 2020, and it's now a close to 8-figure business, and his law firm is going to hit 9 figures within the next 5 years, easy. He's got his name on the outside of a building, and just he's scaling. He's helping all of these attorneys scale their businesses, and we've been instrumental in that. We've been instrumental in creating content for their business. And a cool side effect of creating content for your business on the regular is that you get really good about your messaging, right? And you get really good about what it is that you're providing and how are you helping. And that becomes the focus, not the sale, not the call to action, right? Like when you're doing organic social media content, it's really about how are you building value? How are you helping? How are people seeing you as a resource, not necessarily as a salesperson? And basically what you want your social media to do is you want the social media to do the pre-selling for you. Credibility, trust, authority. And you do that by answering questions, right? And answering the right questions. And there's techniques out there. I mean, TikTok has become a search engine. YouTube is a search engine, Google, so stop trying to figure out what people are looking up and just look up the top, searched topics, and those become the topics that you put together. And it's endless in your niche. It's endless, right? Like you could create videos all day. And some of my clients, when they were posting one video a day, they're now posting 5 to 20 times a day. And so that's now becoming, I think that now if you're wanting to get the attention, it's the creativity of the content, but then it's also the volume of the content, right? And if you're creating enough content on a regular basis, you're going to see what people are enjoying, right? And then from there, those are the videos that you can boost because you'll know. It's like, oh, great, this video has 80,000 views. Those are the videos that we need to boost. Instead of trying to reverse engineer what you think people are going to like, they're going to tell you what they like. We don't have to sit around and try to write a commercial for it when we can just create content on the regular, not worrying about that. Our audience is going to tell us what they like, and then we just keep boosting our top viewed videos, and then go a little bit harder into what they like and less into what they don't like.
So obviously really, really important to have awareness of what people are interacting with in regards to your social media. But you talked there about, potentially putting out 5 to 10 videos a day. How does, when we look at algorithms and things like that of social media, is there any, what's the effect of posting too much versus allowing something to live and breathe for a while in regards to putting it out there?
If I knew the answers to those questions specifically, I'd be a trillionaire, right? Because I would know exactly. And if everybody knew what the algorithm was going to do, they would also be trillionaires. So I think, anybody that can talk about what the algorithm is going to do and what it's not going to do, I think they're just making it up. So I will tell you from what I'm experiencing and what my clients are experiencing as a result of posting several times a day. And I will tell you that the engagement is going up a lot. I will tell you the views are going up a lot. The subscribers and follower count is going up a lot. So I don't know. I don't want to talk as if I know, because I don't know, right? Like every month we're figuring some new things out, right? Like and because we're fortunate in that we're able to work in a bunch of different niches, from legal to, I mean, I have a haunted history tour that we do content for, event planners, bands, so, and we edit anywhere from 350 to 400 videos a month. So with that volume of content, we can see, okay, guys, across the board, these types of videos are getting the most hits, right? These types of videos are creating the most authority. These types of videos are getting the most engagement. So we just double down on those, and just keep learning as we're going. But the consistency across time beats everything, in my opinion.
Yeah. Okay. I love that. In regards to the way you approach videos with people for their social media, how does that process work?
So I have a 5-step process, and it's development, pre-production, production, post-production, and distribution. So in the development phase, what we're doing is we're dialing down who's our target market, where are they hanging out, what are they consuming, who else are they following, who else are they listening to, what types of videos are they watching, right? So we're really nailing that stuff down in the development phase. So, I mean, yes, we're creating content and hoping that, that they're going to watch it, but we're also doing a lot of the legwork to make it easy for us to optimize the types of videos that we're going to create. So we're not going in blind. And we'll figure out what the mood board is and your colors and the fonts and all of that good stuff and hashtags. And when we do all of that stuff in the development phase, then we'll roll into pre-production. And pre-production is where we go in and we'll do this for the client. We'll go into Google, we'll look up the top rated videos, questions. We'll go into Pinterest. We'll sort of take from that, TikTok, Instagram, and we can create about 80 to 100 pieces of content in one day. Yeah. So, and that's anywhere from, the 15-second to 45-second bites. Right. And when I tell people that, they're like, wait, what? But it's not really that difficult, right? Like from this podcast alone, we could extract, at least 150, 200 in an hour, pretty easy. So we'll go in and we'll create all of the topics. We send it to the client. They'll approve it. And then we roll into like writing out the script. So some of the videos we've been doing are like the history of videos, and those do really well. Like we have a family law attorney in New York, and we did a video on a story that a guy, his wife had kidney failure, and he gave her his kidney. And then she cheated on him, and they went through the divorce proceedings, and he asked for the kidney back. Obviously didn't get it back, but it was a fun story to tell, right? And we shot it real dark and sinister and stuff. And, video did really well. So history of videos do really well. Top 10 lists do really well. So if you're in a particular city, I always recommend doing a top 10 restaurants that I love. That way, when that video comes out, we're tagging those restaurants. You know what I mean? So those are like really easy things that you can do to like really increase that engagement. And then once we figure out the pre-production, we go in, we take one day a month, we shoot everything. And that's anything from podcasting to, to the content. Goes into the editing room. We send it to the client for approval. And then we either give it to their marketing team for them to distribute, or we can distribute it for them. We have social media managers on staff, and then we rinse and repeat.
Right. You're talking about, length of videos there. You're talking about a lot of 15 to 45-second sound bites. What are you seeing as working kind of more in that corporate world? Are people, can you like take the risk on creating longer form content that you hope is engaging, or is it more focused on keeping it short and sharp and catching people's attention, but not trying to hold them there all day?
So what you do with the long form content is you create the trailers for the long form content. And that's what you can post on social media for I have a podcast too. So I take the most interesting clips from the podcast and I put that on social media for them to want to watch the episode. And so that's an easy way to get people to get to that long form content, is create the mini trailers for it, and then say, hey, if you want to watch the whole video, go to YouTube. So let YouTube be the house that has all of your content, and then your social media pushes it, towards there. But I mean, you got YouTube Shorts now too. So, that's a good way. And that's a good way to get those sound bites then. And then people are like, wait, what is this channel? And then they click on the channel and they can get more of what they want. But it's really about optimizing the videos too. Once you distribute them, like making sure that you have a nice hook, make sure you have the right hashtags. And YouTube's a whole nother thing that you really have to like. Every single video you put up, you better, optimize it properly with, search engines and the whole nine.
Yeah, good. I love that. I'm not sure if you got to see it, but Nissan produced the 4-hour advertisement early this year, a 4-hour video advertisement, which was absolute genius. And
that's awesome.
They did not sell anything specifically, but however, they were very clever at positioning throughout. And so what they did is, and it's worth having a look at this because they had 12 million views within, I don't know, a week or two. And so what they've done is, lo-fi music.
Mm-hmm.
So lo-fi music's very popular, obviously, with people studying and people even working from home or just having it in the background. And so what they did was quite genius. Let's say baseball, right? Baseball takes, 4 or 5 hours to play. A game. So when you're sitting at home, you don't, unless you're a real fanatic, you quite often will have baseball just kind of sitting in the background. You do chores, you'll hear something, you'll come and watch the replay, or it's getting tight, so you sit down and watch the most interesting parts. And kind of what they've done with this video is they're kind of repeating lots of stuff. So literally there's a woman sitting inside a car. It's an animation, and literally every 2 seconds, it is repeating the same thing she is doing. So she's tapping her finger on the steering wheel, her hair flutters in a way, she blinks, and then on the dashboard, you've got kind of parts of this new car that they're promoting for females, younger females. And you can see the dashboard, but there's also a few extra things in there that take people back to reminisce the original Nissan car. So it's great for a Nissan enthusiast as well. But then through the window, because it's from side on, through the window, they have different scenery. And so to start with, they're kind of going through a rural area and then in through a city. And there'll be a billboard every now and then that will have the Nissan car on there. And then there's like different things from maybe different people's childhood. So there might be from an animation film, there might be like a dinosaur or a certain figure or something that will be walking across the mountains in the background. Then it will change after, I don't know, maybe 20 minutes or so. Then it'll move to like a sunset one. So you're driving along the coast and you've got the beautiful sunset on the water, and then you go past the bus shelter, and the bus shelter has the sign for the Nissan. And so it's very, very clever where, you might be studying or working, and then you just kind of look up and you see it. And a lot of it's very subconscious. I thought it was absolute genius, and it was kind of going all against what everyone's been talking about: shorter, faster, more dynamic, catchier. And here they are. They rolled out something where it gave people value, not in content. It gave value in listening to music, in the background that we want when we're playing. So are you seeing other things like this where people are really pushing the boundaries rather than just trying to keep you engaged and eyeball on the video, but they're actually using other elements to subtly sell and anchor something in the memory through video on social media?
There are no rules, right?
No rules.
I mean, it's just carte blanche. It's sort of fantastic that you don't have producers anymore shoving things down your throat, over and over again so that you like it. Like that's what it used to be like, right? With CDs and, and tapes and things, there was a small segment of, of artists that they were like just pushing, and now it's carte blanche. Like anybody could be a musician, anybody could be a producer, anybody could be all of these things. So there's really no rules in that. I think it's genius, that they took this commercial and they made it 4 hours long. Like, it just goes back to, what we were saying at the beginning. It's people are predictable, right? And the predictability is that they're going to get tired of something and they're going to want to see something new, right? And so you are seeing more and more people producing longer form content, right? Which is why I think podcasting is necessary. If you want, like, your business needs a podcast, and all of my clients have a podcast. Like it's a non-negotiable. Like if you work with me, you're going to get social media content, but you also get a podcast. And I'll tell you, the relationships that get formed from these podcasts. I mean, I don't have to tell you you have a podcast, but for the listeners out there, I mean, having a podcast, I'm on my about to hit my 100th episode. I have made just amazing friendships from this podcast. I have learned so much from these podcasts. I have been entertained. I have deepened relationships. I have made money. Like 80% of my clients currently have come because they were on my podcast. Yep. And we started talking and there was a connection, right? Like, especially for a company like us that are going to work with clients on a monthly basis. I better like you, you better like me. Like, we're going to get on the phone, on a monthly basis. And if it's going to feel like, oh God, he's calling again, right? Like, you don't want that. I don't want that. We don't want that, like we want to have a good time, and then it goes back to the other thing that I was saying, as far as like trying to push and what's the next thing and what's the next thing. And now I'm like, I want to have the most fun, and just deep conversations that I can, thought-provoking, emotional, non-surface, just things that like change me, things that like make me stop in my tracks and go, wow, okay, I've been moving too fast to even think about that. And podcasting, man, slows you down, which is amazing. I love, and you know what, man, kudos to you for having an hour-long podcast, because like there's a lot of podcasters out there that are like 20 minutes. That's it. 20 minutes. We got to keep it fast. And it's like, no, man, you can get some really good stuff in minutes 40 to 55, like, man, like there's some like deep stuff that starts to arise and you're like, I didn't even think about that. That's amazing. So kudos to you, man.
All right. So this podcast interview is just about to start then. We're around about the 40, 45 minute mark and my face is going blurry. Now, we talk about overnight sensations, and as we know, overnight sensations generally do not happen overnight. There is generally a huge amount of work that goes in behind it. We look at artificial intelligence. It's a 60-year overnight success in a way that is not even foolproof right now. It is still struggling to find its space. It's getting lots of hype. It's getting lots of attention right now. But we're also seeing people in some of the artificial intelligence that's coming out, seeing flaws in it and losing trust pretty quick and respect with it. And so it's kind of at this really interesting intersection right now where we've got artificial intelligence doing some phenomenal work in medicine and other areas. We're kind of changing the way that we use a search engine in a way with the likes of ChatGPT. But and there's lots of debate going on around where is it ethical in doing that? What's it going to do to my job? How is this Is it going to be authentic in the way that it produces content for thought leaders or even people using video, etc.? It's a fascinating space, and I love it because I'm actually thinking it's having more of an effect on us as human beings, and actually reconsidering what does it mean to be human, and how do we make decisions, and is the decision-making process we've had as a default for thousand years actually serving us? And when we chuck it into a machine, we start to realize, hey, you know what? It's not maybe the machine that's flawed, it's maybe us as human beings that have some flaws that we kind of been thrown, dusting under the rug, so to speak, for a little while. So I'm curious for you, in a space of content creation where there is a number of different artificial intelligence modalities coming out, what are you seeing in regards to how you can leverage it, but also are you seeing it as a threat?
Oh man, when it first got thrown in everybody's face in November, right? It's like, that initial shock. It's like, oh wow, okay. This could be the end of a lot of things, right? And then when you just kind of move out, right, and you get that 30,000 foot view, and then it doesn't look as scary, right? In my opinion, because what I think is going to happen, and you touched on it beautifully, in terms of what makes us human. And I think this is going to force us to communicate more regularly, because we're not having to deal with mundane tasks that take up a lot of time, right? I just read a book called Buy Back Your Time. Have you read this?
Not yet, no.
Awesome. But it talks about the 4 quadrants, right? The 4 quadrants are things that make you zero to little money and drain you. These are delegatable tasks and should be delegated immediately. Then you have things that are making you money but drain you. And these are sort of leadership positions that you should be delegating as well. Then you have things that make you little or no money, but that fulfill you. And this could be, time with friends, family, like fun things, hobbies, whatever, right? These are things that you should be spending time on. And then the 4th quadrant is things that make you money and fulfill you, right? And so as entrepreneurs or musicians or whoever, that's where you should probably spend a majority of your time, right? If you want to be successful. Obviously you can bliss out on things that don't make you any money and still be fulfilled, however you want to live your life, right? Yeah. But if you want to be successful and as an entrepreneur or as an athlete or whoever, that's probably where you should spend most of your time, sort of in that right quadrant. And I think with AI, you're going to be able to move your delegatable, draining tasks to a machine so that you can stay in the more fulfilling aspects of your life, which we should be, right? That's, at the end of the day, it's about enjoying a sunset and not having to check your phone, right? Like email and all of that stuff. It's about enjoying, a dinner with your family, without worrying about all of the other things that need to be done. And I'll tell you, since I read that book, I have just cleared up my calendar tremendously, and one thing that I'm about to delegate is my email. I'm about to hire an executive assistant that part of their job is just checking my email and training them to go, yep, this is important, this is not important, and sort of train them. It'll probably take about, 15 days to 30 days to train them to do that. But once they do, how much time do you spend on your email on a daily basis? It's insane, so I feel, really excited about the fact that AI can take care of that. I'm redesigning my website, and I went in and the web designer's like, hey, can you tell me all of the different services that you offer, and can you get into detail about it? And I'm like, absolutely. Chat GPT. Boom. And I'm like, I finished this project in like 30 minutes for a complete website redesign. That would have taken me days of just sitting and thinking and blah. Not that it's perfect, right? But it was just, it was a good starting point. It did the heavy lifting. I come in for the edits, put it up, done, And so, yeah, don't people want more time to do the things that are fulfilling to them? Don't they want more family time? Don't they want, like, at the end of at the end of your life, you're not going to sit there and wonder about how many more emails you could have answered, right? Like, that's not going to be a thing. It's going to be like, what was your impact? Did you get to see things? What was your relationships like? Were they deeper? So I'm very excited about that aspect. I mean, do I think people are going to use AI for nefarious reasons? Absolutely, because humans are predictable. Going to be people that do that. You know what I mean? That's why we have police, So, but I can't sit around, and I don't sit around worrying about things that I can't control anyway, because I can't control them. I can only do what I can do. Right. So, let's use these tools to help us have a better life, and let's use these tools to help other people have better lives.
Bravo. In regards to social media video content, are you using artificial intelligence tools that you're finding valuable at this point?
I mean, ChatGPT right now, I know Adobe is about to unleash something on the editing side of things that looks really cool. So I'm looking forward to that. And you have apps like Unreal Engine and Oximetry that can help, like, with when you're shooting on green screen, to make it look like it's not shot on green screen, like it has a little bit more sophistication. I don't know the app because my editors use it, but it's for podcasting, and it can basically, like, suck in the video and audio, and it can chop it up, boop, 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 and find, like, the spots where there's dead air or, stuttering and stuff like that. So that definitely speeds up our editing, so that we can get content out quicker. We've tried some editing tools out there, but I don't think they're quite as sophisticated yet. I'm sure that it will get there in the next, 2-3 years. So, it'll be, you just got to pivot, too. Like, if when, the cars were invented, it put a lot of horse and carriages out of business, and people adapted. It's just the way it is, so we'll figure it out. You just got to stay, read books and stay prepared and see where the opportunities are.
Love it. We all know smart people have great answers, but the most successful people ask great questions. When was the last time you did something for the first time?
When was the last time I did something for the first time? Wow. Oh, boy. It's been a minute. I mean, I would say improv, but I've already done that. You know what? I will have to do something about that. I will have to do something. I used to try to do, one thing to get out of my comfort zone a year, so maybe I need to readopt it. No, it's been a while, man. It has been a while.
That's good. I'll let you to ponder that one then.
Yeah, thank you.
What is the one question that you would love to solve?
Globally, personally?
Any?
I want to understand my wife better.
Great question.
Yeah, I would love to. I would love to understand my wife better.
For you, what is an inspiring great leader, and who's a great example of this?
I love Tony Robbins, man. Eric Thomas is great too. Do you watch Eric Thomas, the hip hop preacher? I like, and look, Tony Robbins, great, but Eric Thomas, when I hear Eric Thomas speak, I want to move, right? Like I'll be tired and I'll listen to Eric Thomas speak and I'm like, all right, it's enough. I'm ready. I got to go. I'm no longer tired. So yeah, Eric Thomas, my wife though, when I play him, cause he yells, it's like, who is that? Why are you playing? What? This guy is yelling. I'm like, I love it. I love it. Like that just, it takes me to another spot,
Beautiful. Been a great conversation so far today. How can people learn more about what you do, and what is the best way for people to connect with you?
Social media is great. You can look me up, Armando Leduc, on every platform. TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. You can find me pretty easy, and just reach out if you want to have a conversation. I'm all about it. I'm buying back my time so that I can do more of this. I want to do more podcasts. I want to do more public speaking. I want to do more teaching, learning. So I'm all about it. Reach out.
Beautiful. Armando, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you today. Loved hearing about your early days growing up in the military family in Germany and then moving to Georgia, and trying to find your space in this world and landing in the world of performing arts and being in theater and then becoming an actor, to now actually being able to help visualize people's worlds and companies' worlds through your video, through social media, and to hear your really fascinating insights into the world that you see right now, and to even think about the way you approach artificial intelligence. I think it's quite inspiring, and I really love the way that you look at this world. So thank you very much for your time today. Look forward to continuing the conversation in the future. It's time for you to join the Inspiring Great Leaders movement by visiting craigjohns.com.au. Share this podcast on LinkedIn and be sure to hashtag Inspiring Great Leaders. We would love it if you could leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Drop us a line with your feedback and questions and connect with us on the Craig Johns LinkedIn, Facebook and Instagram pages. Be sure to check out the next Inspiring Great Leaders podcast, where the ordinary don't belong.